Before I get into eyeshadow, I'm going to lay my eyebrow hairs. Hooray!
Lay the hairs.
Lay the hairs.
Lay the hairs.
I'ma make it go north, south, east, west, coast. Maybe we can go north, south.
Let's get into how to blend eyeshadows. I'm very excited to do this video. I've done one in the past. If you want to go watch it, I will put it in the cards up here. I'm excited about this video because I feel like there are so many different ways to blend eyeshadow. I'm excited to teach how I do it specifically because I know quite a lot of people appreciate the fact that I blend so well. I don't know. Much like with anything else in makeup, your base is what's going to affect the rest of what's going on for what you're trying to apply. A lot of people like to use concealer. There's also different kinds of eyeshadow primers. You have liquid ones, cream ones, you have ones that are wet and ones that set. The ones that I like to use are the Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadow primer, and I like the MAC paint pots. They set, they don't crease, and they make your eyeshadow last forever. And the difference between these formulas is just that this one comes out fluid and this one is a cream, but they both set on your eyes. I prefer eyeshadow primers that set on my eyes because whenever the eyeshadow primers are damp, they have a tendency to change the consistency of your eyeshadow and your ability to blend them. They can make it more difficult or easier, and they can also oxidize your eyeshadows. If you're not familiar with what that means, it means it can make your eyeshadows patchy, darker, or lighter on your eyes, which is a problem, you know? It can make you feel like your eyeshadows are not good quality, but really it's the eyeshadow primer you're using. So which one should I use today? The Contemplative State paint pot. This is what it looks like. It's pretty much the same color as my skin. So if you're able to, girl, go ahead and get you one of these. If you're lighter than me, this primer is going to look like an eyeshadow on you. Another thing that contributes to how your eyeshadows blend in is how your primer is applied. If your primer is uneven on your eyes or patchy, I want to recommend getting a different kind of primer, especially if you actually try to blend it in. But you'll want to make sure you blend in your primer, whatever you're using, so that it has a seamless finish across your eyelid like that. And notice how when I open and close my eyelid, there's no creasing or separation. Y'all see that? That's why I like to use these kind of eyeshadow primers. And I don't normally bring my eyeshadow primer all the way up to my eyebrow because I do conceal. Rather, I like to blend my eyeshadow primer into my concealer. So if I was using the Anastasia Beverly Hills one, I would sort of keep it down here and then just fade it out into my concealer that I have underneath my brow. But for this one, because it matches my complexion, I don't have to do that. I can just put it everywhere. So we got the primer on, and as y'all can see, the finish is super natural. It's not shiny, it's not matte, it just is, right? So whatever primer you're using, get it on, get it even, and make sure you're applying it with a tool and not with your finger. I do notice that some people, they like to use beauty blenders to apply their eyeshadow primers. I don't recommend that, only because it makes it difficult to see. When you have a huge sponge in the way, it's kind of hard to see if you're blending at all with the product. Today we're going to be using the AMREZY palette, or we're going to be using the neutral colors in this palette. Once you learn how to blend neutrals, it'll take you into the next step of learning how to blend color. We're going to start with the medium tone, the initial eyeshadow that's going to give us some depth. And you definitely don't have to use one as dark as I'm using. This is just for demonstration purposes. So what I'm going to do is I am tapping this eyeshadow into my eyelid. Y'all see that? Tapping. And notice how I only have color on one side of my brush. I did not dip into my palette like this. I went in like this. And the reason why is because if you use your eyeshadow, and I'm just going to turn this way, if you blend your eyeshadow like this, where the where the base of the bristles are directly on top of your eye, what will wind up happening is you're going to scatter all that eyeshadow everywhere, kind of like dust on a broom. You wouldn't be sweeping your floor like this unless you were just playing or something, but everyone sweeps in one direction. So we're tapping this in because we want the eyeshadow to adhere to the eyeshadow primer, stay in place, and show its truest color at the most opacity possible. And opacity just means how well the color shows up. Is it see-through or is it solid? If it's solid, it's opaque. Another reason why I like to press my eyeshadows in instead of sweeping them across my eye is because it reduces fallout underneath your eyes depending on the formula of the eyeshadow. If you pick up a lot of pigment, you're going to have fallout regardless, but this just helps because, like I said, you're pressing the eyeshadow into the base. Pressing the eyeshadow into the base. If you have too much product on your brush, feel free to wipe it off on a towel or something. Continue those tapping motions around the perimeter of the eyeshadow once you've established where you want it to go. And I am tapping and pulling down. Not hard like this, but I'm tapping and pulling down. The reason why I do that is because it softens the edges without taking this eyeshadow higher than I want it to go. That is really important, especially if you're not trying to have your eyeshadow all the way up at your eyebrows like some of us enjoy to do. And it'll make it easier for you to blend this color out when you decide to apply your transition shade. Now you might get to the point where you don't even need a transition shade, especially with applying eyeshadows like this, because you can quite literally blend this all the way out and it'll look like you have a couple different colors going on, which is great, especially if you like to get it and go. You don't want to have a whole bunch of stuff going on with your eyeshadow. You just want to do a couple of things. Practice blending this way and you will not need a transition shade. Anyway, but we're going to include one because some of us do enjoy wearing multiple colors. Before I add a transition shade, what I want to do is blend this out a little bit more and create the shape that I like. This is really, really important before you start applying other colors on your eye, because the first color that you put on is going to determine the shape of your eyeshadow, how it's all going to look at the end, right? Do you want it to be round? Do you want it to be elongated on the edges? Do you want it to just stay where it is? This is the time when you decide that, and from here then you would start those sweeping motions, because your eyeshadow brush no longer has all that pigment on it. You're able to blend out without having depth all the way up here, unless that's your goal. And again, if you're not confident about that, just go ahead and wipe your brush off a little bit and then start blending. So for me, I like for my eyes to be elongated with my shadows, and you always want to blend in the direction you want your eyeshadow to go. I've been saying this for a while now, and I hope that some of y'all have learned from it. What that means is you want to take your brush on the side where the eyeshadow was, and you want to blend this out in the direction you want this eyeshadow to go. You want it cat-like, you need to be doing the eyeshadow this way, blending it this way, okay? You want this up here to go up there, you need to be blending it this way. You want it to come all the way down into your crease and smoke up, that's exactly how you should be blending it. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I'm gonna draw mine out a little bit. What I like about this cat shape on my eye is it really emphasizes my brow bone right here, because it sort of sits kind of low, if y'all can see it. And also, it just emphasizes the natural shape of my eye, which is sort of almondy. So you also want to make sure that you're having a very light hand when you're doing this. You should not have pressure on your skin with this brush. It should literally just be dusting across your eyelid. But yeah, you really want to make sure you have a light hand when you're doing this too, so that you don't accidentally take depth that's down here and locate it somewhere else. That's going to give you that transition look to the singular eyeshadow that we just applied. If you decide not to have a transition shade, what you can do is take that transition shade and actually bring it up in here. Depending on your eye shape, you can bring it up in here, or you can just get a very little bit of it and blend it on top to give it that transitional look. I'm going to take New Yorker from this palette, and I barely got any on my brush. Y'all see that? I literally just went boop. And I'm going to start in the front here and just work my way out with this. And just soften all that up. Another good thing about making sure that your concealer and your eyeshadow primer are blended into each other really well, or that you take your concealer around the bridge of your nose, is there's no gap. Like there's no, okay, here's the primer, here's the concealer, here's your foundation. There's no gap, and I love that so much. So I'm blending out, going at my usual speed now. Yes, honey. Make sure you're checking your angles, because you might look, like you might be like me, who I blend at an angle, like I turn my face this way when I'm blending. You might be blending this way, but if you look head on, there might be lines of demarcation or something. So just make sure you check your angles too, and continue blending in the direction you want that eyeshadow to go. Now, truth be told, you can stop right here, honey, because that's pretty much the basis of blending eyeshadow, at least in your crease. You could put some mascara on, you can put some eyeliner on, and go about your day. This is very cute. This is very subtle, very natural, okay? At this point in the video, I'm going to basically just put my makeup on, and I guess I'll explain what I'm doing and why I'm doing and how I'm doing. For my eyeshadows specifically, I actually want to put some depth in the corners. So I'm going to take this, what is this? I'm going to take this Urban Decay eyeliner in the shade Perversion. And I'm going to smack it on my eye, girl. This is my favorite pencil, specifically for making my black eyeshadows blacker. You can never be too black, all right? And I'm just gonna pull this down around the edges. I'm also using an eyeshadow brush. This is a flat eyeshadow brush from Thrive Cosmetics. It's dual fiber, and I believe their brushes are hypoallergenic and all that jazz, so check them out. But I'm pulling it down in the direction towards my eyelashes because I want to soften the edges, but I'm not trying to have this go like way up there where I don't need it to be. I'm also doing this very gently. Like that. Okay. Ooh. Girl, that is pretty. We're gonna do soft glam today because I haven't done it in so long. I do want to make sure that this doesn't fade or look ashy during the day, because anytime you put black on, I'm keeping 100 with you, it is never black enough. You have to layer black eyeshadows with a black base of some sort. I recommend that Urban Decay pencil. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that same brush, wipe it off, and I'm gonna dip into BK from this palette. And I'm gonna put BK right here. Now I will say that BK itself is a little bit more of a, it's a toned down black. It's not super black. I keep saying black. It's pretty toned down, so it's not gonna be nearly as dark as perhaps like the Urban Decay blackout eyeshadow. It's just enough for you to be able to add depth easily. And I'm just pressing that in to the eyeliner, okay? Same concept as with the eyeshadow base. I'm just pressing it in, and I'm only applying this lower than where I want it to be, even though the eyeliner is already on my eye, because I'm going to blend this out. If you have a tiny blending brush, or you don't, girl, go get one, because these come in so handy. So I'm gonna take this brush. This is the MAC 221S brush, and I'm going to use it to soften the edges of this black. I love this brush so much. The bristles are very, very long, all right, and they're super soft. If you have trouble with detail blending, meaning you put an eyeshadow down and you want to blend it out, but your brush is too big, like it'll wind up fanning it out everywhere, get a brush like this. Incredibly soft and helps with that precision. And because it's so tiny, it can blend in place instead of blending and blowing everything out all at once like a bigger brush would. Girl, yes. And it's great for like the edges and the crease. Ooh, I'm in love. If you decided to put a matte eyeshadow on instead of a shimmering metallic one, you want to make sure that you are leaving room in your primer area where you want that eyeshadow. You're leaving room on your primer for that eyeshadow to adhere to it. even if your primer is one of those ones that sets basically, and that's because it won't have to compete so much with whatever you were blending with in the first place if it has its own little designated area. You know what I'm saying? Now, some people will just take an eyeshadow primer again, or they'll wipe their eyeshadow primer off and put on some more primer like while it's wet or whatever to make that space. But if you don't have time to be doing that, keeping those things in mind as you're blending out your eyeshadow is going to save you some time, some effort, and some energy. So as y'all can see, I have left room. I like to leave room. I always leave room. I got to leave room on my eyes, because if I don't, then whatever it is that I'm trying to come up with is going to wind up not being the case, not being done if I don't have a space. And I just feel like it makes it easier in the long run. Like if I did want to do a cut crease, I'm not going to have my eyeshadow primer cutting through other colors around here and then turning the color of the eyeshadow primer, or changing the color of the eyeshadow primer to something that's going to affect the shadow I'm going to put on top of it, you know. Anyway, the next thing that I'm going to do is just that. Now, I do like to use brushes like this that are a little bit more dense, and I'm going to take NC43 from MAC. This is their foundation powder, and I'm going to use this as my eyeshadow. If you love a nude eye, okay, when I say nude, I mean it matches your skin, girl, get your face powder, or get one that matches you. Even if you don't use it every day or often, long as you keep it clean, sweetheart, it'll last you forever. But get this. Get a face powder that matches you and use it as your nude eyeshadow, instead of buying God knows how many palettes and God knows how many eyeshadows that rack up just to get this look. Like I mentioned earlier, I do know that some people will go right back in with their eyeshadow primer, whatever they're using, or their concealer to create this look. And you could also set it with a translucent powder. The only problem with that is, though, concealers are not meant to be set on your eyes. So they will crease, fold, separate, you know what I'm saying? And your eyeshadow won't last as long. At least not up close where I be looking. So anyway, I'm just pressing this in, and I'm pressing it in instead of sweeping it in. You always want to press your eyeshadows in no matter what formula they are, especially for your eyelid, because if you're sweeping it in, the eyeshadow will get everywhere again. You'll have fallout, and you're not going to get that pigmentation that you want, that opacity. I don't think my eyes are even, but it's okay. Laying down this face powder like this on my eye also opens this part of my eye up, visually speaking. So I'm gonna get that open, and then it just tightens right up in here, that nice snatched eyeball. So what I'm going to do is put on my lashes, my eyeliner, and my base makeup, and I will be right back. Also, I have my base makeup on. If you want to learn how I did this, go follow me on Instagram, because I'm going to be posting a reel about it. All right. I'm looking down at my camera because my camera is literally right here, my phone. The only thing I have left to do is put some eyeliner on my lash line again to cover up the lash band, and then I'm gonna put on this mascara. So this is from Soshi. It's a brand that is aiming to be earth friendly, and they make refillable mascaras. So mine is all ugly. Y'all, let me get my little fingerprints off of it. So on the bottom, you unscrew it, you pop out your mascara refill once it's empty. And I think that's pretty cool. I feel like trying to reduce waste is a really interesting and complicated thing for beauty brands, but I appreciate their effort. This is what the mascara wand looks like. It's rubber. I usually am not a fan of rubber wands because the little bristles are usually super big and hard to grip onto my thin lash hairs. I have a lot of like long lashes and a lot of lashes, but they're very thin. Thin. So I appreciate that these are really, really tiny so they can grip real good. So let me go ahead and put this on. Y'all can see, and then we can close out the video. Hooray! So I just go at the base of my lashes where they grow out from the follicle and just put a little bit. Oh, and by the way, I wanted to tell y'all, these are my XRIZZTINA lashes. I introduced them a couple videos back, but I don't know if anybody knew that I was like for real about having some lashes with KAIMETICS. But I have lashes with KAIMETICS, and this is what they look like. They're really, really pretty. I specifically went for this design because they're round, so you can trim them on the ends and make them cat shaped looking, or you can keep them round, and that essentially just means just about anybody can wear my eyelash. Good enough. Anyway, I do want to thank you all for watching this video. Don't forget to like it so that other people like you who enjoy these kind of videos will be able to see it. Drop a comment down below and let me know, what do you personally want to learn about makeup application? I won't call you out. I won't embarrass you when I make the video, okay? But let me know what you want to learn and I'll be happy to teach it to you. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. If you ain't new, okay, just make sure you still subscribe because sometimes YouTube will be playing. I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.